Langston's grandmother had taught him to be proud of being black. When a famous black scientist and teacher, Booker T. Washington, came to town, they had gone to hear him speak at the University of Kansas. Langston was given books to read by W.E.B. Du Bois, along with issues of the magazine The Crisis, which Du Bois edited. For entertainment, Langston memorized poems by Paul Laurence Dunbar, an important black poet. He realized the importance of education and studied hard to become a model student. By 1916, Langston was yet again at a new school. When it came time to graduate 8th grade, he was elected class poet by his classmates. Langston had never written a poem in his life, but his teacher told him, "There's a first time for everything." 14-year-old Langston decided to try. He wrote 8 stanzas, one for each of his teachers, and 8 more about his classmates. A stanza is a group of lines separated from others in a poem. The day of the graduation ceremony, Langston was nervous. There was a chorus on stage, along with musicians and other performers. Langston sat separate from his class, facing the audience. His palms sweated as he waited for his turn to speak. When he stood, his knees shook. Langston's mouth went dry. But he read his poem, and everyone cheered. It was the first time Langston received applause in his entire life. "It had never occurred to me to be a poet before, or indeed a writer of any kind," Langston remembered. His grandmother had given him a deep love of stories and poetry, but always as a reader. Now Langston's dream was to be a writer. Langston moved once again, this time to Cleveland, Ohio, with his mother and stepbrother. He read more than ever, and soon he had several favorite poets. He admired the musical rhythms and rhymes of Vachel Lindsay, and the storytelling and poems by Edgar Lee Masters. He admired Carl Sandburg, who wrote free verse, poems that didn't rhyme or have a regular rhythm. Langston's favorite poet was Walt Whitman, who celebrated ordinary people and human experiences. Whitman's poems were free verse too, but with surprising rhythms all their own. They reminded Langston of how people talked at church, repeating phrases to keep his attention. Langston noticed the student magazine at his Ohio high school hadn't published writing by any of its black students. He decided to submit his work. At first, his poems were rejected, but Langston didn't give up. Eventually, the magazine staff accepted a poem. Langston had been published. Langston didn't notice at the time, but his earliest published poems used repetition, much in the same way that black religious folk songs called spirituals did. He had accidentally begun to invent his own style, which would come to incorporate other references to black culture, including blues and work songs. Just before Langston's senior year of high school, he received a letter from his father in Mexico. He invited Langston to come live with him for the summer. Mr. Hughes was wealthy now and owned a ranch. Langston was eager to get to know the man and to go on an adventure. Sadly, the trip wasn't at all what Langston had expected, and neither was his father. In Mexico, people believed Langston's father was a dark-skinned white man, not black at all, and Langston was forbidden from revealing the truth. Even worse, he learned that his father hated black people. He called them terrible names and believed untrue ideas about them. Langston's father offered to pay for Langston to go to college, but only if he studied to be a mine engineer and didn't become a writer. He wanted Langston to go to Switzerland after graduation, return to Mexico for work, and leave the United States for good. It would mean giving up everything Langston wanted for his own life. Langston had one last year of high school to think about it. By the following summer, he would have to decide which direction his life would take.